Hey, what's up guys? I just switched from the iPhone 14 Pro Max to the Google Pixel 7 Pro. This has been a really interesting switch for me because it's like going from one side of the tech world all the way to the other. Going from iOS and that entire ecosystem of the phone, the Mac and all the Apple products incorporated with iMessage, FaceTime and AirDrop to throwing that all away and picking something like this up where I'm disconnected from it all using the Google Pixel 7 Pro. Now this phone has a lot of different interesting things. Most importantly, it's made by Google, and so the software and hardware, very much like the iPhone, is made by the same company, and so technically it's the iPhone of the Android world. It's made in a way where both sync together and work fluidly like you'd expect from iOS and the iPhone itself. So we're going to deep dive into this phone and really give you a full review as to whether it's worth it or not in 2023, especially with all the heavy hitters like the Galaxy S23 Ultra, which I'll also be checking out, so do subscribe and turn on the notifications for that. Anyways, let's get into the review of the Pixel 7 Pro. So, probably the most important aspect of any smartphone in my opinion, the design. This is probably the reason why you pick up the phone in the first place, and for me, the Google Pixel 7 Pro does not lack in many ways. The camera layout for me is probably the best camera layout I've seen on any smartphone. The main reason being because number one, it looks very unique with this silver visor, and anyone who sees this phone knows that it's a Pixel and not just some random Android device. Secondly, because it's an even visor going from left to right, when you put it on a flat surface, it doesn't wibble or wobble about like you do with the iPhone 14 Pro or any other phone where the camera's in the corner, so it means it's uneven on a flat surface. This is perfectly even, and if anything, it elevates the phone up, so acts as a feature where it just makes the user experience even nicer. And that brings us onto the frame, because the visor itself blends in with the frame and gives it that really cool seamless look. Now that's kind of where the pros of this device end, because the frame to me is a little bit too thin and allows you to accidentally touch the edge of the screen. So a thicker frame like they did with the Galaxy S23 Ultra would allow for more grip and would allow the phone to be easier to use one-handed. Though the edge does look quite cool and does look like it's sort of floating off the actual phone, to me it's a little bit useless. Unlike Samsung where you get edge lighting and edge panels for your notifications and extra features, utilizing the curved display, this doesn't really do that. And if you guys know any way you can, let me know in the comments, but as far as I can tell, it's kind of just there for the sake of it, but just kind of makes the user experience a little bit more difficult. I think that if Google can maybe get rid of that uneven bezel at the bottom of the phone, just like the Galaxy S23 and regular S23 Plus, then you could go with a completely flat display and round off the corners even more, making it easier to hold. If it was a little bit thicker, if we could get rid of that curved display and maybe add some matte textured glass on the back to remove those fingerprints, it would probably be the perfect designed phone. So if anything, maybe Apple, you should be taking notes for the iPhone 15 and giving us a visor just like this. But that takes us on to the display itself. This display is a Quad HD 1440p panel. It's 6.7 inches and has a 120Hz refresh rate. The 120Hz works smooth and makes the user experience even nicer. When scrolling up to your app launcher or when bringing down the notification center, everything feels clean and fluid. However, the Quad HD panel, this is something that's an upgrade from the regular smaller Google Pixel 7, but I have to say, when I first unboxed this phone, I didn't actually remember to turn on the Quad HD setting, because out of the box it comes with 1080p and you actually have to go into settings to increase the resolution, which I think is a bit strange. But I didn't really notice that it was at 1080p until I actually went into settings and changed it to Quad HD. I noticed it was ever so slightly more sharp, but this will be something that we speak about at the end of the video. 1080p isn't that bad, and so the smaller Google Pixel 7 might not be that bad of an option if the 1080p is kind of keeping you from buying that phone. I wish it was a little bit more vibrant. I've noticed when watching YouTube videos, though it is sharp, some colors don't pop as much as they do on the iPhone. The iPhone goes on about its Super Retina XDR display that's been calibrated by Apple, as well as the more vibrant panels from Samsung devices like the S23 Ultra, the S22 Ultra, or even the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. Those phones just feel ever so slightly more vibrant, so maybe Google could make this a bit more vivid. For those wondering, I have put this on vivid mode as well. It's not on natural, so as sharp as it is, the colors could pop a little bit more. Now that we've spoken about the design, we have to talk about one of the most important things, which I hated with the iPhone. That is the always-on display. The always-on display on the Google Pixel 7 Pro is probably one of the best always-on features I've seen on any smartphone. And I think this is just an Android thing in general, where the iPhone seems to just want to turn off the phone and just show you your lock screen completely black. Whereas with the Google Pixel 7 Pro, number one, when you turn off the screen, it gives you a ginormous clock, which is easy to read, and the text is very thin, so it doesn't feel very bright at night. But when you get a notification, the clock goes into the corner and shows you a bunch of little icons which are replicas of the apps to tell you that you have a notification from WhatsApp, Outlook, or whatever app you're using. Now what I like about that is when you look at your phone and you notice that the clock is now no longer big and has been shoved into the corner, you immediately know you have to pick it up and check what's going on. So features like that are what differentiate the always on display from the lock screen, and that's what the always on is supposed to be. So I have no complaints there. Now, one big drawback when it comes to the display is the biometrics. The only two biometrics you can really use is fingerprint and facial recognition. Both have their issues. Fingerprint sensor is an optical fingerprint sensor, which means it's not taking a 3D scan of your thumbprint. That means that it shines a giant fireball light every time you go to unlock the phone, because it basically needs that light to read your fingerprint, almost as though it's looking for an image of your face. Think of it like that, but for your finger. I think this is where the phone is lacking hugely. Google should have gone with an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, where when you unlock the phone, it takes a 3D scan of your thumbprint, and means that even if your thumb is wet after washing your hands, it still unlocks your phone, whereas it doesn't do that on the Pixel 7 Pro. If you wash your hands and your thumb is wet and you go to unlock it, it just simply won't work. And what's even annoying is at night, if you need to unlock your phone and you're half asleep, you'll get this giant light on your face, and it's very distracting. On top of that, because it's not taking a 3D scan of your finger, it doesn't always work, but most of the time does. So it's there, it's alright, but it's nothing amazing. Facial recognition, however, for me is terrible on this phone. The biggest issue is that it doesn't work in the dark, and that's because unlike Apple's Face ID system, this is kind of just looking at an image of your face. So yeah, in the dark you're always relying on that fingerprint sensor, but during the day, if you turn on your phone, you might get lucky and it might just take you to the home screen by recognizing your face. So if anything, I don't care too much about facial recognition, but if Google could give us an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, that would be more secure, more easy to use, and just better overall. Now that we've spoken about biometrics, I think one of the most important things about the Pixel is the software. See, unlike other Android phones, Google makes the software and hardware. Companies like Samsung, Oppo, and OnePlus take Android and use it as a base for their phones, where on top of Android they start putting on their own skins, their own apps, their own features, and while some of them do prove to be useful, Google does it best because it's the cleanest, most minimal version of Android made for the Pixel itself. The way the phone is built is very much synced with the way the phone works, like iOS and the iPhone. Bringing up your app launcher, bringing down your notification center, the way the animation curves, it curves with the phone, and that's what I love about this. It's very clean, minimal, and easy to use. Some really key features stood out to me. Number one, when you change your wallpaper, you can actually change the theme of the entire Android UI. And while similar things do appear in other Android phones, I think Google has done it best, where it just does it automatically, seamlessly, and is so clean. Also, suggested apps. This is another really cool feature where you can actually change the number of apps you can have in each row and make the app smaller, which is something I love and makes the phone look so much cleaner, unlike with iPhones where you have to forcefully have the same number of apps on every home screen like everyone else's iPhone. But once you go with that 5:5 aspect ratio for your apps, at the bottom you can start adding suggested apps. So the more you use a certain app, the more it recommends it to you at the bottom. This can be one of your apps that can fill in an empty space. So that to me is very useful. Things like settings are so simply laid out. You can very easily navigate through it, look for what you're looking for, change certain toggles, and again, unlike the iPhone, I can actually see my wallpaper, which I love. It just looks so cool. The Google search bar at the bottom, everything about it is just a joy to use. So software for me is great. But for this software to work, we have to look at what's inside this phone, the battery and the chip powering the actual phone itself. Before we look at the battery, we have to understand the chip. The chip is made by Google, very much like Apple makes their own chips for their phones. This is the Google Tensor Generation 2 chip inside of the Pixel 7 Pro. Now, Google's Tensor chip was introduced in the Pixel 6, and I think when it came to raw power, it wasn't quite up there with something like Snapdragon, which is what all other Android phones use. Honestly, after using it, I haven't noticed that many issues, but I have seen the phone slow down a little bit when opening certain things, whether it's the wallet, whether it's certain apps, whether it's, loading YouTube videos. I feel like the phone could be a little bit more snappier. While it is nice that Google's making their own chip for it to work perfectly with the phone, the camera, I think going with Snapdragon would have been better for the consumer at the end, because something like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is just so powerful and so much more worthy of a phone like this. Battery life on this phone is interesting because it does have a 5000 mAh battery like the S23 and like all these other heavy hitters, but this phone for some reason only gets me through the day with about 4 hours of screen on time, and to me that's a little bit annoying because with such a large battery I should be expecting 6, 7, 8 hours like I was getting on my 14 Pro Max. And I think a big reason for that is the power efficiency of the chip. This chip might just not be as power efficient as something like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, like explained. Maybe if Google could change the chip around and sort some things out there, we could be getting a better overall experience. Now that we've spoken about the design, the display, the biometrics, all of that good stuff, we have to look at the main thing about the Pixel, the thing that Google promotes the most, and the actual design of the phone that highlights this feature. That's the camera. So without further ado, let's go and check out this camera outdoors properly. Okay, we're here in my favorite location outdoors to test out the camera of the Pixel 7 Pro. Now, I spent all of yesterday in London having to learn about dinosaurs at the Natural History Museum just to get some really good shots on this phone for you guys. So I'm going to spend the time sitting down, going through those pictures on the Pixel 7 Pro and compare them to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, because I noticed a massive difference between the two cameras. And then after that, we're basically going to utilize this time outdoors to show you what videography is like on the Pixel 7 Pro. So without further ado, let's get into it. Google Pixel 7 Pro right here and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Yesterday I spent the whole day taking the same photos on both phones because the Pixel, as good as the pictures are, this phone is very much different in terms of color temperature and the way they finally look. And so you need to compare this to something like an iPhone to really see how good the camera is. So on the Pixel and the iPhone, I got the same picture of these cars. The iPhone is definitely a lot brighter. Apple tends to distribute the same amount of light across the entire image, and because of that, the phone produces slightly warmer photos, whereas the Pixel, even though they're more natural, they're definitely more cool. This is similar and consistent across all the other photos with this car right here. You can see the iPhone is just a little bit brighter. You can see the car itself. The Pixel is a bit darker, but definitely looks a lot more realistic. Looking at photos with more things going on, with all these different old classic retro computers, the iPhone, again, you can see more of what's going on. The Pixel, you can definitely see that, but I think the detail looks a bit sharper on the Pixel. The iPhone, it just has this warm tone across the entire image. Similarly, when looking at this truck or whatever you want to call it, to me looks a lot better on the iPhone. The iPhone, because it's warmer, it makes the red on the wheels pop so much more. Whereas on the Pixel, because you have a cooler image, makes it look very dull and not as sharp and clean, even though it is very, very clear. Again, with this plane, you can see, because there's slightly brighter, warmer lighting on the iPhone, you get reflections across the entire plane. Whereas on the Pixel, it looks a little bit more realistic where the light is shining. When looking at ultra-wide shots, what I was surprised about is the Pixel produces such sharp ultra-wides. Interestingly, when taking pictures, the viewfinder makes it look really blurry and like really crap. But when you get your final result, the picture looks incredibly sharp, and that's because the Pixel does a lot of behind the scenes processing. And so when looking at these two images, you can see the detail in the Pixel, in the plane, the screws, the metal, even the actual place where people are walking is a lot brighter on the Pixel, and it looks as though it was taken with the main lens, which is a massive advantage. Now, with this picture focusing on a single object, you can see the iPhone does a better job where the background is just as sharp as the main thing that I'm focusing on. Whereas on the Pixel, at the back you can see it's a little bit hazy and a little bit blurry. When looking at these dinosaur bones, you can see because of the slightly cooler tones of the Pixel and the Pixel not trying to overexpose the photo, you can see the cracks and the details, and they're a little bit more sharper. I mean, I can say the same thing about the actual museum itself. Both these pictures look good, but because the Pixel maintains that blue lighting, it also maintains the sharpness across, whereas the iPhone's kind of adding this warm light throughout the picture, which can take away some of the sharpness in the bricks. The photo that I find the nicest when it comes to regular point and shoot, the overhead of the museum. Both phones do a perfect job at not distorting the angles in any way. But this is where you see the biggest difference. Look how much more blue the bones are on the Pixel and how much more white they are on the iPhone. The iPhone again may have a better consistency here of making everything look the same, whereas the Pixel is really going to give you a look as to what the place looked like in real life. So that's kind of indoor regular point and shoot. When looking at nighttime shots, I think the Pixel does a much better job at that. The Pixel definitely maintains the quality of what a nighttime photography shoot looks like in real life, whereas the iPhone, because it's trying to lighten up the dark image, it loses some of that quality. Now both phones, because the iPhone's 48 megapixels and the Pixel is 50 megapixels, both of them crop down onto the main camera rather than switching to the optical at 2x, which means you maintain that sharpness. But again, the Pixel, because it's not trying to add any sort of fake lighting, looks a lot cleaner. And finally, when looking at these fruits, you can see both have very, very good color accuracy. The Pixel, while we have been saying it's a little bit cooler, when it comes to foods, I've noticed they look very similar. However, when looking at the optical lens, the Pixel definitely is a little bit sharper and gives you a slightly more zoomed in image because it goes up to 5x, whereas the optical lens on the iPhone goes up to 3x. So for me, when it comes to both these phones, it depends on what kind of lighting you're looking for. If you like something that's a bit cooler and more natural, go for the Pixel. But if you want something that brightens up the image in general, go for the iPhone 14 Pro Max. But those are the point and shoot cameras on the two phones. We're now going to check out videography and what that is like on the Pixel 7 Pro. So let's check that out now. Okay, so apologies for the banging, there's construction going on, but right now I'm filming on an iPhone 14 Pro at 4K 30 frames per second. That's what I always film on with an external mic and all that good stuff. But let's switch to the Pixel 7 Pro and see what that looks like in 3, 2, 1. This is the Google Pixel 7 Pro at 4K 30 frames per second. So I'm going to go over there and check out what the stabilization is like. Let me know in the comments what you think. So far I have a feeling the iPhone is better, but let's check it out. So this is basically us walking around. You can basically tilt it up and down, maybe go up at the sky, see what HDR is like, if it's overexposing the sky, the water, and basically if I was to walk pretty fast, that's what the phone looks like. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. That's kind of video quality. It's also nighttime, but I've got a light, so that should be helping with video quality itself. I have a feeling the iPhone does look better though, but yeah, if we were to move it around left and right a little bit, and also some lighting over there, you can definitely see. Let's see how it focuses if we go really close. So I think focus is definitely okay on the Pixel 7 Pro, but I think point and shoot is the main reason to be buying this phone, not video itself. But that's video on the Pixel 7 Pro. I'm pretty sure audio is also terrible right now because of the construction going on. Okay, back from camera testing. Now on to the main and final question about this phone. Should you buy a Pixel 7 or 7 Pro in 2023? Now we've been looking at the Pixel 7 Pro, and even though it may not hit the level of the S23 Ultra or the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and you want something that's perfectly succinct and you want a really awesome Android experience, this phone is great. But if you want value for money, don't go for the Pixel 7 Pro. Go for the Pixel 7, because even though you're losing out on that extra telephoto lens, that Quad HD display going down to 1080p, and not having a glossy camera visor, instead it being matte, which some people might prefer, I think for £300 or dollars less than this, you're getting so much more value, and that phone is so much better. In fact, the last time I checked on Amazon, I think that phone was about £480, which is so worth it. So a Pixel 7 is great. The Pixel 7 Pro, however, look, it is under $1,000 or pounds. I picked this up for about £800, which is great. However, if you're willing to spend a little bit more and you really want a flagship and you want it to be Android, I am going to be testing out the S23 Ultra, which is probably a more superior phone. So have a look at that and stay tuned for the coverage I'm going to be releasing off that phone. But generally, this is a really good phone. And if you're looking for something under $1,000, but you want something that's of flagship level with the size of the screen and the way it works, Pixel 7 Pro is definitely a go. So subscribe and turn on the notifications, and make sure you stay tuned for my full review of the Galaxy S23 Ultra coming very soon. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.